मैं देखता हूँ कोई फाउंडर्स आते हैं हमारे पास, बोल सकते हैं, नहीं नहीं, I can't start this until I have 16 crores. I'm like, no. If you can't start this without 16 crores, you can't start this even with 16 crores, you can't start this with 60 crores.
सो ऐसे कौन
Hmm.
से पैरामीटर्स हैं जो आप you keep in mind to evaluate a startup and then you invest? What are the major criteria?
Absolutely number one is going to be numbers.
आप ऐसे रेड फ्लैग्स कौन से हैं जो आप इंस्टेंटली स्पॉट कर लेते हो क्योंकि आपको इतना एक्सपीरियंस हो गया है?
First of all, if I see a business showing me that they are growing much, much faster than what I would expect. And ये बोल रहा है कि मैं 1,000 करोड़ का बिजनेस बनाऊंगा 3 साल में, like ये probably yes. Startup investing, they are 100 years ahead of us in development, infrastructure and technology. We are worried about feeding more than half our population. They are worried about how do we compete, stay at the top of the world. We are putting a big brick wall in front of all of our founders and saying, "Isko climb karo." And why, I don't know.
So hi Avik ji, how are you?
बहुत बढ़िया.
It's great that you came to this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, a lot of business talk, investment talk. But before we get into deep into the podcast, I'd like to know about your journey. Like, how was your early life? How did you get started? Please share your journey with us.
Sure. So my early life, I actually grew up in a very small country town called Muscat in Oman. My parents, like most traditional folks, were Kachi Gujaratis. They moved to Oman to hopefully give me and them a better life, and
Okay.
ended up growing up there. Very, very small country, and I think that shaped a lot of my early thinking in terms of culture and interpersonal interactions. Because Oman's
Mhm.
very, very small, less than 3 million people when I was growing up there. The city had
Okay.
less than 800,000, less than 8 lakh people in the entire city, and it was a pretty big melting pot. Yeah, सब cultures एक साथ में school जाते थे, used to meet in the evenings, chill together. People, expatriates, of course, from all around the world, as well as the Omanis, who have, in my opinion, the best culture across the whole of the Middle East. They are the most warm, hospitable, friendly people out there. So it was very fun, very, very nice growing up in that kind of a town, that kind of an environment. And over time, I think my next step was my family likes boarding school. My dad and uncle were from Sindhia, and they
Okay.
wanted me to follow in the footsteps. My mother thankfully put her foot down. She's like, Sindhia, ladke ka school hai, it's a boys' school, and I want my son to only go to a co-ed. So,
Yeah. Quite is better.
oh yeah, I mean, mother saved me there. And so I ended up going to this international school outside Pune on top of a mountain called Riverdale. And
Mhm.
that was a great experience. 3 years there. The fun of, I mean, the initial parts get a little hard, yeah, when you're getting out of your house, when you're the only child, bit spoiled, bit pampered, and then you're suddenly thrown into a dormitory with 9 other boys.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's difficult to stay away from the family such a young age, right?
I mean, I think more than that, it became incredibly fun because you're staying with in a dormitory with like 30, 40 other boys, all the same age, all energetic, all like looking to have fun, do masti. And I think that's also where you learn a lot of like core interpersonal skills. Yeah, how do you deal with other people? How do you negotiate with other people? Because everything at that point in time used to be a barter system. I am a very, very, very messy and disorganized person. My cupboard and my bed used to be atrocious. And अगर वो नहीं संभालते हो तो used to get penalties
Hmm.
and punishments. But even then थोड़ा academics में skills थे. So in return for tutoring people or even quietly writing their full essays, my cupboard used to be made and set, and every morning my bed used to be made.
So you were a good student in school.
I would say decent. I would say good. Could have been definitely better if but we did never ended up putting the level of kind of rigor, I think, necessary.
So how did you get started in business?
So it was an extension from boarding school. So जब भी मैं boarding school में था, I didn't really spend too much time in Bombay. My grandparents were here, so I would spend a month every year in Bombay, in India. But otherwise, I used to always want to run back to Muscat. Then my boarding school friends convinced me. They're like, यार ये city जैसे कोई और जगह नहीं है. Spend some time here. You will
Hmm.
not regret it. So after we finished 10th board exams, khatam, the party, and then I said, let me stay for a few weeks and see what Bombay is like. And once I did that, my entire life plans just changed because my plan was I'd already kind of gotten admission to a school back in Muscat, 11, 12, वहाँ करके फिर देखते हैं what the traditional path of like go somewhere else for study. Instead, I just said I want to be in Bombay, and I ended up joining Jain College because Bombay is one of those rare places where हम 11th and 12th भी college में करते हैं तो junior college happened and fell in love with the city. At that point in time, I joined an international organization called ISEC. It's a student-run, student-driven organization, 50 plus countries, operates 10 plus cities in in India. So very, very active organization, and ended up working with them. And working means you're a student, yeah, you're a volunteer, you're doing this for free, but you're putting in as much time as most people put in into full-time jobs. So I got into the finance department. So we were managing the lifeblood of the entire business. And at that point in time, I think like 17 years old, 18 years old, पे आप 2 crore का P&L संभाल रहे हो on an annual basis. That kind of exposure is very, very hard to get.
Yeah.
Brings in a certain level of thought process, brings in a certain level of discipline, just gives you experience that you wouldn't have had before.
Hmm.
So very fun. वहाँ से I did economics in my degree because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like completely clueless. I know some friends were like, हाँ मुझे ये बनना है वो बनना है. I know exactly what I want to do. So just look at them. I'm like, how do you have that level of clarity? I don't.
Hmm.
So I ended up doing economics, thinking this can get you anywhere, and ended up only utilizing a lot of it much later in life because my first job, right after I got out of college, I realized that because of ISEC, there are certain companies that love hiring ISECers. And one of them was a company called Direct Eye.
So, जब आप when you were in that, you said you were handling 2 crore PNL, annually. So इतना बड़ा PNL संभालने के लिए थोड़ा सा डर भी लगता होगा आपको कि गड़बड़ ना हो जाए कुछ,
Massive,
you know.
massive.
So जब आप इतना बड़ा पोर्टफोलियो मतलब पीएनएल संभाल रहे थे तो आपको वहां से कैसी एक ऐसी लर्निंग मिली जो आपके बाद में काम आई आपके इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी में और आगे बिजनेस जर्नी में.
तभी I actually discovered the most powerful question which anyone can use in life is the word why. तो कोई भी आता था कि ये हमारा एक्सपेंस है या ये रेवेन्यू टारगेट नहीं मीट हो गया, तो जस्ट वन सिंपल क्वेश्चन व्हाई. ये पर ये हुआ, ओके व्हाई. पर ये हुआ, ओके व्हाई. You keep digging deeper down,
Yeah.
and that generally leads you to some very interesting answers.
Hmm. Curiosity is the key.
Pretty much. And then other people talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, हम podcast पे मैं इतना बात कर रहा हूँ अभी, but the fun a lot of times is to just let other people talk.
Hmm. Right, right. So you were also the founder of Jam, right? Your
Co-founder,
the
co-founder.
company you co-founded. Yeah, yeah. So how did you get the idea of that company? How did you get started in that business?
Uh, काफी चीज है that happened before that, तो शायद वहाँ पे पहले जाते हैं. So I
Sure,
think
sure,
from direct,
definitely.
so I think from direct I basically उसमें मजा आ रहा था. Great company. पूरा bootstrap company है. They sold. I'm sure you are familiar. The Bhavin and Divyank, the Tudakia brothers, um, bootstrapped and sold a company for $350 million in 2013. 14, end of 13, 14. Like simple सिंपल फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल क्या बिजनेस कैसे बनाना. आज मैं देखता हूँ कोई फाउंडर्स आते हैं हमारे पास, बोल सकते हैं अरे नहीं नहीं आई कांट स्टार्ट दिस अंटिल आई हैव 16 crores. आई एम लाइक नो. If you can't start this without 16 crores, you can't start this even with 16 crores, you can't start this with 60 crores.
हम्म।
नहीं कर पाएंगे.
लोगों का एक परसेप्शन रहता है कि बिजनेस स्टार्ट करने के लिए पैसा चाहिए, बट व्हाट आई बिलीव कि बिजनेस स्टार्ट करने के लिए पैसा नहीं चाहिए, बट पैसा चाहिए कि जब आप बिजनेस कर रहे हो तो कुछ मंथ्स बिजनेस अर्न नहीं करता है, राइट? यू नॉट गोना हैव एनी इनकम, तो उन मंथ्स में सरवाइव करने के लिए थोड़ा सा हमें पैसा चाहिए, राइट? क्योंकि अगर आप जॉब नहीं कर रहे और योर फुल टाइम बिजनेस में ही हो, तो एट दैट टाइम यू नीड मनी इन योर बैंक अकाउंट to pay your daily expenses,
So
right?
I think you've
For
touched upon a
business
point.
exactly,
हाँ सही बोलिए बोलिए.
yeah, for business exactly, you don't need a lot of money to start, right?
So I think आपने एक point पे touch किया है, which is a very pet peeve of mine. Like I'm very I love talking about it. I love asking this question. What do you think is the median age of a successful founder when they started their business?
So I think it would be 24, 25, or 27. I think it's more.
32.
32.
तो ये थोड़ा एशिया का डेटा है. इफ यू आर यूजिंग यूएस का डेटा,
Hmm.
हार्वर्ड हैज डन अ वेरी गुड स्टडी कि द मीडियन एज इज एक्चुअली 36.
Okay.
And every time I
So
tell this to a 24 to 4 years old who's like मैं business बनाऊंगा, there are many reasons why this is the age, one of the ages, and that not to discourage any younger entrepreneur. Go for it, fight the battle, try it. But I'm just giving people perspective कि these are the typical times when people have a high probability of success. Now, basic reasons. पहले तो, you literally said that you need money to survive for that time when you're not in your job. At that age, ideally, you won't be in that situation. कि
hmm.
आप 6 महीने एक साल भी टिका सकते हो while building your own business, while putting money into it, without
Right.
having to, without, because you have those savings, you built those savings.
Yeah. Hmm.
The second piece is where that 23-year-old founder is desperately picking up the phone and, oh, वो बोल रहे हैं मेरे पास energy है, I will call 100 people. The 32-year-old doesn't have to call 100 people, picks up the phone, calls up 5 people they've worked with in their
Hmm.
probably 10 to 12 years of working and be like, sir, ये pilot test कर लीजिए, ये भाई ये pilot test कर लीजिए, why don't you buy my product first? And they get the yes.
Because older people have good connections.
Correct. You just worked more.
Hmm.
You built networks,
Yeah.
you built connections.
Hmm.
Third thing, you have made mistakes on somebody else's money. मैं investor हूँ. I'm not here to pay for your education.
Yes.
Any
Hmm.
founder, like anybody at that age, has worked, maybe worked with a startup, maybe worked with a corporate, maybe tried their own business, and has probably seen some amount of failure. Something has not gone right, कुछ बेकार हो गया, they may have got fired once, or maybe they built a business and it didn't work. Now they're coming to me with those lessons. So I'm like, it makes so much more sense.
Hmm.
And fourth perspective is, you've typically seen one business cycle. Businesses, पूरा like in the whole world, businesses कुछ 6 से 7 साल का साइकिल में चलते हैं. मार्केट ऊपर 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 जाते हैं, क्रैश आता है.
Hmm. Right.
If you've never seen a crash, all you've seen is everything going up. You're like, ah, everything is great, rosy hai sab kuch, no buffers, no safety, no capital that's kept aside for rainy day. वो ठिकाना ही नहीं है. बस सब कुछ अच्छा है.
Hmm.
By the time you've done about 8 to 10 years of work, you would have seen at least one business cycle.
Hmm.
You would have seen people getting fired left, right, and center. You would have been seeing people have no jobs. You would have seen companies just stop most expenses. You would have
Right.
seen all of that and been through it and faced that pain also.
Hmm.
So these are a
Next
lot
time
of
जब वो
very
डाउनफॉल आएगा तो जब वो नेक्स्ट टाइम जब वो डाउनफॉल आएगा तो यू नो विल नो हाउ टू मैनेज एवरीथिंग.
You'll never know everything, but at least you'll know a little bit more than the guy who didn't see it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You'll know more. Hmm. Hmm.
But ironically, Bhavan and Divyang did start this when they were 17 and 19 years old. They took one loan of 25,000 rupees from their father, paid that back within 3 months, and bootstrapped and built a company which they sold for 350 mil. तो कर सकते हैं.
That's a that's a really good amount, $300 million.
Yeah, तो कर सकते हैं. So that was my first training ground. Beautiful, beautiful place to work. Very fun, very relaxed, very fun but strict culture. It was we will let you have fun. अभी कोई ड्रेस कोड नहीं है. शॉर्ट्स में आओ, चिल मारो, जब भी आना है आ जाओ. But if you don't get your meet your targets, they will fire you as fast as they will smile.
Hmm.
So simple culture. Trust your people, give them freedom. They don't use it well. Goodbye.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
that's simple.
so from
Sounds
there, actually,
sounds
I
simple.
sounds simple. Sounds simple. करने में थोड़ा tough है.
And what about your business? How did you get started in that business?
I'm getting there. Mine was actually my major thing that I did was a failure. So I'm going to get to that also.
Yeah, yeah.
So from there, from Directa, I got almost poached into a family office, the Sutaria family. So these are old friends of mine from boarding school. Once again,
Hmm.
you live, you learn, you build networks. Turns out that,
Hmm.
and I never even saw it, never even realized it in school, these guys are one of the largest diamond manufacturers in the country, for diamond cutting, polishing sales in the country. And they were looking at startups growing in 2012, and they were like, "Yeah, हमको हमारे पास भी पैसा है, हम भी invest कर देंगे." But they didn't know how to.
Hmm.
Even I didn't know how to, but so every weekend I would spend time with them. They would, in fact, they, like, I mean, on their behalf to help them build their family office, I would fly to different cities on the weekends. So, मैं पूरा 5 days week में I'm working at Director. Weekends I'm going around the country meeting every investor that existed. तभी कुछ 10 VC थे, maybe another 10, 15 family offices. कोई invest नहीं करता था. This is back in 2012.
Hmm.
um, IIMA Ventures, which is what it is today, at that time was CIIE, one of the only incubators in the country. So went to all of these guys, tried to understand कि क्या चल रहा है इस space में, how does it work? And then in 2013, early, we made our first investment. Uh, that also did not did not last. The company failed, which is one of the first things we realized as investors. Ki, yeah, uh, that 9 out of 10 failure rate,
Hmm.
the real people who get impacted when anyone
Hmm.
especially does fraud. But if you when you're building a company, some of the key people you should remember to take care of are the employees, the people who are working with you, working to build this together, who have trusted you
Hmm.
to join. And if that is not very high on your priority list,
Hmm.
then that's going to be a bad outcome.
So अभी तो आपको बहुत साल हो गए इन्वेस्टमेंट में भी इन्वेस्टमेंट डिफरेंट बिजनेस में आपको इन्वेस्ट करते करते. सो आपने कई सारे स्टार्टअप्स को इवेल्युएट किया होगा, राइट? सो ऐसे कौन
Hmm.
से पैरामीटर्स हैं जो आप यू कीप इन माइंड टू इवेल्युएट अ स्टार्टअप एंड देन यू इन्वेस्ट? व्हाट आर द मेजर क्राइटेरिया?
So, absolutely number one is going to be numbers. Even though I'm much more of an interpersonal person. I love human beings. I love people. When I'm chatting with a person, I genuinely get to like them and make a decision. Which is why I forced myself कि मैं पहले number देखूं. I look at the growth rates. I look at how you're performing. I look at what your numbers tell about you. And then I meet the founder. And then I listen to the story of the founder. Where did they come from? Who are they as people? What kind of what kind of experiences shape their thought process, and why are they doing what they're doing?
Hmm.
Those two are my two key criteria. Everything else, I could give you a list of 10 other points. कि हाँ मैं ये देखता हूँ वो देखता हूँ. It's pretty much
Hmm.
about who are the people building something, why are they building it, and how is it doing today?
Hmm.
Like what is the situation? Are they are you growing 30% month on month? Are you do you have like customers who are lining up to work with you? Do you have so many purchase orders but you can't fulfill them because you need that capital?
Hmm.
That's the moment I'm waiting for.
Hmm.
I'm waiting to find someone who's like, मैंने कुछ figure out किया हो.
Hmm.
Probably because of some pain in my own life. मैं ये करता था, मैं वो करता था. Like, for example, I'm evaluating software today. I won't go deeper into what it is, but क्योंकि we're still in the middle of the investment. But the founders have both worked for 9 years in two of the largest startup companies in India. Today, both of those companies are massive unicorns. Um, काफी पॉपुलर फाउंडर्स है सब लोग जानते हैं उसको भी
Hmm.
so these two founders have come out from one small division there
Hmm.
like middle seniors like they're not C level executives or something but they're like we saw this one problem and both founders became friends because same engineering community में थे. They were like, okay, you know what? I see this problem. Do you also see this problem? Other guy said, I also see this problem. Now both of them are working at engineering in like large companies. They spoke to other friends in other engineering companies. आप भी ये देखते हो, आप भी ये देखते हो, आप भी ये देखते हो. They built a small MVP tool, gave
Hmm.
it out, immediate adoption, quit their job, said यही कर रहे, started building it out.
Hmm.
75% quarter-on-quarter growth for the last 12 months. People are lining up. People are ready to pay them upfront for 1 year.
Hmm.
I'm like, that is an exciting investment.
Hmm.
That's something I really want to. The next guy coming कि ये मेरा next healthy chips brand है जिसमें ये palm oil नहीं है वो नहीं है ghee नहीं है and how will I compete against the other 100 I don't know. I'm like वो मुझे नहीं चाहिए.
So प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट ढूंढना और थोड़ा सा कि जैसे कहते
मतलब
हैं कि कुछ उखाड़ लिया है पहले से ही.
sorry Akshat.
सो जैसे प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट ढूंढना और जैसे कहते हैं कि पहले से हमने उखाड़ लिया है कुछ अपने बिजनेस में जो हम कर रहे हैं.
See, PMF दो चीज की होती है पर्सन मार्केट फिट और प्रोडक्ट मार्केट
हम्म.
फिट.
हम्म.
आप in generally if you nail the first one, person market fit, then product market fit भी आ जाता है.
हम्म.
Why are you the right person to build and solve this problem? If you
हम्म.
have answered that correctly, probably you would be able to find your PMF.
सो ये हुई क्राइटेरिया की बात, राइट? कि आप जो एनालाइज करते हो स्टार्टअप में, आप ऐसे रेड फ्लैग्स कौन से हैं जो आप इंस्टेंटली स्पॉट कर लेते हो क्योंकि आपको इतना एक्सपीरियंस हो गया है. बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स में आप इंस्टेंटली रेड फ्लैग स्पॉट कर लेते हो कि ये ठीक नहीं है, ये ठीक नहीं है.
So I love looking at numbers for the reason it tells me a little bit about how
हम्म.
someone thinks. Um, let's assume a B2B marketplace.
हम्म.
इसमें ट्रस्ट बनाना बहुत टफ है. It takes a lot of time.
हम्म.
Typically what you'd see is your first 6 months to 1 year of the business will be very slow. Your repeat rates with customers will be maybe once every 3 months because that's the typical procurement cycle across most
हम्म.
business products. Now, and your margins will be low. Your margins will be starting off maybe 1.5, 2%. At scale, अगर आप 6, 7, 8 तक का पे पहुंच सकते हो, and that's very, very well done. So when I see a business, first of all, if I see a business showing me that they are growing much, much faster than what I would expect, and that their margins are much larger than what I would expect, then I go back to what I had started earlier in our conversation. Why?
हम्म.
Or how? 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 Okay, how also usually goes to why. How? oh, because Avik, our customers really, really value our product. There's nobody else who's solving this problem. हमने कुछ figure out किए. Okay. So why did this customer do this? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Mostly they're lying.
Okay.
Mostly they're lying.
Hmm.
That one out of 99 chance, 100 chance, if they're not, then तो यार मेरा चेक ले लो क्योंकि आपने कुछ खतरनाक figure out किया.
Right.
Similarly with future numbers, if your projections are insane,
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, countless business देखा हूँ, 12 years से investing कर रहा हूँ.
Hmm.
If nobody could do this, and now see, again, it depends on who's coming and saying that. Now, चलो, I mean, Mr. Piyush Bansal comes and says, I'm going to crack something in the some other consumer product. I'm like, yeah, and ये बोल रहा है कि मैं ये 1,000 करोड़ का business बनाऊंगा 3 साल में. I'm like, yeah, probably yes.
Because he built
Because
it
you
already.
have the
Hmm.
first things first, you can access talent like nobody else can. He picks up the phone, he will have 10 of the top guys in the country drop all of their
Hmm.
jobs, say I will come and work for you for 3 months with no salary. Chalu karte.
Right.
That level of talent itself is going to change your entire life.
Hmm.
Suppliers, distributors, how do you crack distribution? How do you solve it? How do you deal with 100 problems that come up? Sab janta hai. So
Hmm.
his time to go to the next crazy number will be much less. Versus somebody else who comes and says, यार मैं 3 साल में लेंस कार्ड बनाऊंगा. मैं भाई तो नहीं बना पाएगा.
जैसे आपको लगता है कि इंडिया में इट्स हार्डर टू गेट इन्वेस्टमेंट रादर इन द यूएस इट्स इजियर इन द यूएस टू रेज इन्वेस्टमेंट.
I think that there are two factors to this. The first factor is their amount of capital available.
Hmm.
It is more than the US. It's a fact.
Hmm.
They are 50 years ahead of us in startup investing. They are 100 years ahead of us in development, infrastructure, and technology.
Hmm.
We are worried about feeding more than half our population. They are worried about
Hmm.
how do we compete, stay at the top of the world.
Hmm.
So fundamental problems देश का अलग है.
Hmm. Right.
Like you're not going to expect a 3 year old to be able to drive a car, no?
Hmm. Right. Right.
So an Indian VC ecosystem, startup ecosystem, which is barely 15 years old, cannot be the same as a one that is 50 years old.
Hmm. So capital.
नहीं हो पाएगा.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
So capital availability is more in the US.
Hmm.
I fully agree with that. The risk appetite is also more because it's the age of the venture capital industry. People are much more willing to give funds to VCs. Running a VC is it's a founding job. You're founding
Hmm.
and building a business. The startup को बस एक VC पकड़ना है पैसा के लिए. I have to go to most funds, early funds have anywhere from 50 to 150 investors.
Hmm.
तो जो
Right.
जो एक फाउंडर ने क्रैक किया है कि हाँ मैंने एक वीसी पकड़ के 4 करोड़ का चेक मिल गया. यार मुझे तो 400 करोड़ का फंड उठाना है ना. मैं 100 लोग
Hmm.
I have to close at least 50 to 100 investors just to be able to get that money.
Hmm. Right.
It is harder to fundraise. And what do I face? यार कहीं कहीं भी जाते हो, ओल्ड स्कूल बिजनेस का प्रमोटर है बैठा है. हाँ पर मार्केट में मुझे 20% मिल रहा है, मैं कल लिक्विडेट कर सकता हूँ. क्यों डालू तेरा फंड में? बोल बताओ क्यों? That is the reality of the ecosystem. So
Hmm.
for every check that I am writing, I have that guy. I have that guy from the Kanpur who's going to pick up the phone and say, "ये business में क्यों डाला? ये 20 साल का बच्चा है कि कुछ नहीं जानता है, क्यों डाल रहे हो?"
So you bring investors from all over the world or just India?
We you see all funds do have some. Most funds typically we get some investors from around the world, but
Hmm.
largely it's going to be domestic capital, especially for your first fund. It is going to be domestic capital because international investors check sizes are larger
Hmm.
and they will not trust that to a first time fund manager.
Hmm.
Most of these guys सीधा पहला check वो लिखते हैं is 40 to 80 crores. They will not put that check into a first time fund manager.
Hmm.
Sometimes not even into mostly not even into a second time fund manager. They are used to saying, okay, show me your last 10 funds history because they invest in the West.
Hmm.
And they come
Right.
over here, they're like, यार आपका एक fund खत्म भी नहीं हुआ है. How do I even evaluate you?
Hmm.
So you're raising from domestic. Domestic क्या पूछता है? कितने टक्के देंगे as a return? That's the reality. So when I see all these uh, irritating comments from founders कि अरे VC के में risk taking ability नहीं है. Oh, these guys are so conservative. I'm like भाई फंड चलाना आसान नहीं है.
Hmm.
फंड उठाना आसान नहीं है.
Hmm.
I am responsible to deliver the best return to my investors. If you cannot prove that to me,
Hmm.
get out.
Right.
Charity nahi hai. I'm not
Hmm.
I'm not obligated to give this young founder a shot. Kyun? When there's a why would I have to invest in the best company that can become the best possible version of itself to generate number one returns for my investors.
Hmm.
Number two, as a byproduct of that, I'm generating development for the country and I'm generating jobs for the country.
Hmm.
I don't care about the number four, which all the founders care about, which is, अरे but give me a shot, यार मैं तो ये कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो वे कर रहा हूँ. I'm like, no, I'm solving for the first three.
Hmm. सो अभी हम जैसे बिजनेस की और इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करते हैं तो हमारे सुनने में एक वर्ड आता है स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम राइट स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम स्टार्टअप एनवायरनमेंट सो व्हाट इट इज रियली एंड हाउ डज इट डिफर फ्रॉम लाइक यूएस एंड इन इंडिया व्हाट डज इट रियली मीन स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम
If you look at the US, and I always love saying that it's very important to look at the US, look at Silicon Valley, and look at how venture capital started. The world of venture capital, most people in the world commonly agree, ये चालू हुआ from a company called Fairchild Semiconductors. Fairchild Semiconductors was one of the original companies building semiconductors in the 1960s in the US. The Now this is the definition of deep technology. Who funded them? There were no VCs. The US government was their biggest customer. They gave them the capex to set up their factories. They helped them with advance payments for their orders so that they could build their factories. They worked with banks to give them cheap and unsecured loans so that they could set up their factories and start doing research and development and build semiconductors. One of the main reasons because the US wanted to win the race to space against Russia. तो वहां से फेयरचाइल्ड सेमीकंडक्टर चालू हुआ. From Fairchild Semiconductor, there's a whole bunch of different um, companies that have gone out. Fairchild was leading the semiconductor race, and then there was one particular top dude who joined, and he became their top salesman, top salesperson. Like this man could sell. Like he would walk into any other like electronics component manufacturer's office, and they will say, "We are going to buy your semiconductors." He would crack those deals like that. This man's name was Don Valentine. He started Sequoia Capital, founder of Sequoia. So when you're looking at all the way back then, it was government money that supported the first boom of technology, deep technology, that then created a guy like Don Valentine, who had made millions of dollars back then in sales commission, who was then writing his own personal checks into startup companies. And one of the first ones that he ended up in. So then, when he went to fundraise, he was going to bank to big people who had money, and they kept saying, "But you don't have an MBA." He said, "I have the MBA from Fairchild Semiconductor. मैंने वो काम किया, वो मेरा MBA." And people were like, so finally managed to raise some money. Smart people who invested with him in the beginning. और उसका पहला चेक गया एक कंपनी called Atari, which for nearly 20-25 years was one of the top 5 gaming companies in the world. Again, Atari was not a 18-year-old who came out of college and said, मैं app बनाऊंगा, मैं ये बनाऊंगा, तभी apps भी नहीं थे. This was someone who worked in a company that Don Valentine had been selling to. He knew he was one of the best programmers from that company. And then this guy came to him and said, "ये मेरा concept है, ये मेरा, these are my first few MVPs I've built. I've already sold some, but I need, and I know that ये demand है, I need the capital to be able to grow." And that was the first check that they wrote officially as a fund. So even if you go all the way back to the history of US venture capital, nobody was giving a college kid some capital and being like, "Go bhag." That misconception is purely hype, television and media. वो नहीं है. But what the word ecosystem basically developed into was the fact that a lot of these from Fairchild, actually 8 different large companies in America. Today, some of them are still Fortune 100 companies in America. All of them had worked at Fairchild. वो सब गए बाद. So Sequoia was built, if I'm not wrong, Oracle was also Fairchild. Have to double check, but your large technology companies, a lot of these founders worked at Fairchild, learned at Fairchild, and then went down and built their companies. Once these founders made money, they IPO'd their companies, and they IPO'd not raising money valuation, but company is loss making and मैं check काट रहा हूँ because I look very good in a suit on TV. They made money, they IPO'd, they made money for their companies, their investors, they were profitable from a very long time. And then they started saying, "Chalo, we will do two things." पहले तो they started giving money to VCs to build out what became the venture capital funds. And second is they were investing directly in startups. That and third and probably the most important thing was वो mentorship देते थे. वो बैठ के बात करते थे. They explain the startups, teach good founders how to build, or at least how not to make same mistakes they did. So वो ecosystem. That's the real definition of ecosystem. ये इवेंट में जाओ, वो इवेंट में जाओ, ये मिक्सर में जाओ, वो मिक्सर में जाओ, वो ecosystem.
लोगों के मन में बहुत थोड़ा सा रहता है स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम का परसेप्शन, तो वो अब थोड़ा सा आई होप क्लियर हो जाएगा कि एक्चुअली क्या है.
Ecosystem is good quality founders raising money, becoming profitable, selling or IPOing, taking that money and supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs. And वो होता है अभी. I mean, if you Shark Tank's one funny example, थोड़ा ऊपर है थोड़ा नीचे है, but most of these founders who are there, obviously forget the media part. Outside the TV show, they are some of the biggest supporters of investing in startups. I mean, hell, some of the first investor meetings I ever went for in 2013, Anupam Mittal बैठा था वहाँ पे, absolutely chill, absolutely approachable, बात किए, explained this is how I look at companies, this is how I think, and man has a very good eye in picking startups. We've invested in a few companies together, so that's the real ecosystem. Founders investing in the next generation, supporting us funds also a little bit to invest in the next generation, and teaching.
राइट. सो स्टार्टअप्स का अभी काफ़ी इंडिया में बढ़ता जा रहा है, लोग नए नए स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं, बट स्टिल आई थिंक वी आर लैगिंग फार बिहाइंड यूएस इन टर्म्स ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट, राइट? So is that because of the capital that they are not getting enough capital, or is there any other reason?
I think that there are three major reasons in that. I think पहले तो early stage incubation or risk taking ability is necessary, like has to be powered by government, and they are doing it. It's not like most people don't pay enough attention and give credit where it's necessary. There's a wonderful facility being set up in that's been set up in Ahmedabad near the IIMA called iHub. It can
Hmm.
seat 700 companies. It's got 3D lab. It's got 3D printing labs. It's got NVIDIA high-end NVIDIA chips for AI computing. It's got
Hmm.
literally a chemistry lab, metallurgy, and all of these. And you pay what 3,000 rupees a month for a seat there per person. You get access to all of these facilities at incredibly discounted rates.
Hmm.
Incredibly discounted rates. And when you're working over there, if they like you, 3 months in, they give you get a grant. Not even equity bhi nahi lete, you get a grant up to 10
Hmm.
lakhs. So that helps you get that early stage. But while that's being done, I think that has to be done a lot more. And that has to be a push from the government side.
Hmm.
Private investors, at the end of the day, I mean, my personal recommendation is अगर वो इंसेंटिवाइज करना है तो कैपिटल गेन्स कम कर दो ऑन वीसी फंड्स प्राइवेट कैपिटल भाग जाएगा या भागेगा हमारे पास आई विल हैव द रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी आई विल सेट अप अ फ्यू फंड्स एंड हैप्पीली डू इट वो एक सोल्यूशन है बट द अदर सोल्यूशन दैट हैज टू बी बैलेंस्ड आउट इज दैट ये यू नीड दीज फैसिलिटीज यू नीड मोर ऑफ दीज फैसिलिटीज यू नीड इट आइडियली इन
Hmm.
एटलीस्ट not more than one in every state at least let's start with one in every state
Hmm.
and then move and increase that. So people who want to innovate, because you need lab access is hard. All of these products, getting access to AI compute, getting access to parts, 3D printing, all of this is expensive. If you can at least make that available, I think we have the best talent in the world. That's not even a question anymore. Indians are unparalleled in level of ability and talent. I think that access is something that needs to be solved for, and that access
Hmm.
cannot be solved for by private, or at least not purely by private. हम नहीं कर पाते, नहीं कर सकते.
Hmm.
It needs a hand-in-hand support from both sides.
Hmm. So government should support more these startups. अच्छा जैसे अभी स्टार्टअप महाकुंभ भी हुआ था और वहाँ पे तो काफ़ी स्टार्टअप महाकुंभ में तो काफ़ी इतने सारे स्टार्टअप्स आते हैं जो हमारे यूनियन मिनिस्टर हैं जो आए थे वहाँ पे आपने भी
Piyush Goyal.
पीयूष गोयल राइट पीयूष गोयल जी ने वहाँ पे कुछ रिमार्क्स दिए जो लोगों को थोड़ा सा पसंद नहीं आए आई थिंक आपने भी उसमें पोस्ट डाला था और रेगुलेशंस भी मैंने रीपोस्ट भी किया था आई थिंक सो रेगुलेशंस आई थिंक थोड़ी सी कमी है यहाँ पे रेगुलेशंस में आपको क्या लगता है मतलब यूएस में के कंपैरिजन
Kami,
में
I
अगर
can't even. This is one thing I will be. I'm very candid on. It's not even Kami.
हम्म
In India, when an entrepreneur succeeds, they succeed despite the regulations. They
हम्म
have to fight. हर दिन लड़ाई है
हम्म
to survive and fight. And you're fighting what? Your own country's regulations.
हम्म
जब भी मैं एक बिजनेस चालू वो मेरा जैम और उसके पहले भी मैं जब भी जिलिंगो में था मैं एक छोटा सा इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट साइड हसल मेरा था इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट बिजनेस चालू किया था
हम्म
3 दिन के अंदर मेरा कंपनी रजिस्ट्रेशन मेरा बैंक अकाउंट विथ मल्टी करेंसी टू एनेबल यूएसडी एंड एंड चाइनीज करेंसी एंड सिंगापुरियन करेंसी एंड इंडियन करेंसी चार करेंसी का अकाउंट along with an import export license and a warehousing license
हम्म
all took me 3 days all cost me less than 2.5 lakhs जीएसटी क्या होता है एक सिंगल नंबर 7% एवरीथिंग इज 7% इफ यू आर एक्सपोर्टिंग एक फाइल करो 15 days के अंदर वो क्रेडिट आ जाता है वापस they say 15 days I have seen it come back to my account in 3 or 4 days sometimes it filing और ये सब प्रोसेसेस मैं खुद किया
हम्म
I did not have to. I paid one agency to just help me streamline some of it. And वो भी this is included in the 2.5 lakh cost for setup. With one agency helping me in setting it up. अगर मैं खुद जाने किया तो चलो 7 दिन लग जाएगा. एक एजेंसी पकड़ के किया 3 दिन में हो गया. 2.5 lakh cost to get all of these licenses. Everything set up. उसके बाद वो बोले filings भाई तू ही संभाल. They're like, what do you expect as your turnover? I was like, ये छोटा सा side का business है, few lakhs kind of thing every, maybe scale up to few lakhs plus every month. They're like, तू ही चला. You only do the filings, you do it. I was like, what? I need CA, I need this, I need CS, I need that. They're like, ये सब भाई, only once you hit about $1 million in turnover, so you call us. That time you need some support for filing and all of this. तब तक भाई तू चला. And I just couldn't believe it. And then when I come here, and I've seen for some of our portfolio companies, यार एक स्टेट का न्यू जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन कभी 2-3 महीना लग सकता है to enter one new state, despite us keeping on saying that we are one country. You want to figure out how to do your regulation. ए मेरा इनपुट इस पे 5% है, मेरा इनपुट इस पे 12% है, मेरा आउटपुट is it 12 or is it 18 or is it 28%? राम जाने, nobody knows. I'm just looking at our systems and I'm like, this is the most, it it is incredible to me कि किसी ने ये डिजाइन किया है. So when it comes down to regulations, I think that we are basically just, we are putting a big brick wall in front of all of our founders and saying, इसको climb करो. And why, I don't know.
तो अब कब चेंज होगा, कैसे होगा, वो तो गवर्नमेंट ही जानती है, हम तो कुछ आइडिया नहीं है. बट इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट.
हाँ?
हम जैसे मैं भी बताता हूँ, अब ये तो कट कर देंगे. हमने अपना जीएसटी अप्लाई करा था तो अटका दिया. तो थोड़ा सा
cut मत कीजिए, at least this much, keep it open.
ठीक है. तो हमने जीएसटी अप्लाई किया तो अटका दिया. ठीक है, बिना वजह. पहले ही डिले करा उन्होंने और उसके बाद अटका दिया, होल्ड पे डाल दिया. कोई कई दिन तक कुछ नहीं. फिर हमने जाके मिला थोड़ा सा,
ये I mean, बस
उसके बाद
anyway, I know everyone knows what it takes to actually get it done. And the harsh truth is, ये सबको जानकारी है. It is not rocket science. It is not new. एक अभी स्टार्टअप हॉटलाइन निकल गया. I'm like, सर ये बस फिक्स करो कि चाय पानी खत्म करो.
और मजे की बात ये है कि उन्होंने फाइल वहीं रखी हुई थी, जैसे ही खिलाया वैसे ही उन्होंने अप्रूव कर दिया, हमारे पास मेल आ गई. तो ये काफी चीजें हैं.
ये तो है भाई, ये तो है.
हम्म,
So yeah, my opinion is कि टैलेंट है, डोमेस्टिक कैपिटल भी है. मैं जैसे लोग बहुत तैयार है टू सपोर्ट. वी जस्ट थोड़ा सा फिक्स और हो जाता है देश में, वील रन है.
थोड़ी सी चीजें डिफिकल्ट है. अगर थोड़ा सा इजियर हो जाए तो हम बहुत आगे जा सकते हैं, फाउंडर्स.
बहुत आगे जैसे.
सो आपके पोर्टफोलियो में अगर मैं पूछूं तो कितनी कंपनियां होंगी आपकी? तो बहुत सारी कंपनीज होंगी आपके पोर्टफोलियो में.
So see, personal portfolio में I've invested in 11 companies personally. Two have died, two have given me exits. बाकी में मैं अब तक happily हूँ and they're growing and they're raising money. Recently एक wonderful company, Optimized Electrotech. It's in the defense technology space. So
Okay.
I mean, as closely aligned to building our country as possible, making us self-reliant for imaging and surveillance technologies for border security. It's, I think, more and more relevant today than ever. And they have just raised 6 million ka funding, almost 52 crores in funding from across some wonderful investors like Bloom, as well as they received a grant from the government for 25 crores. मिल गया उनको. Time लगा. They won IDEX, I think a year and a half ago. It was supposed to be given within 6 months. Time लगा, but वो grant आ गया. So that is already, I think, 5 steps ahead of what I could have ever imagined.
Yeah. So when this company's founder came to you, right? So what did you like so much about him or her, whoever he is? What did you like about him that you decided to invest?
So his name is Sandeep Shah, and he's extensive experience across ISRO, across the defense space.
Hmm.
Sandeep's not a kid. Sandeep is 45, if I'm not wrong.
Hmm.
Um, Comes with almost 20 plus years, like solid educational experience, 20 years of working in and out of defense technology, in and out, also working with ISRO, so understands not only defense technology manufacturing, but the government procurement cycles. कि how do you actually sell to the government? कैसे चलता है?
Hmm.
Understands both very deeply. Build, when Sandeep decided to build, similar to how I said, if a good founder snaps their fingers, they will get the
Hmm.
right talent. When he was
Right.
leaving to build, so many strong scientists said, हम आपके पीछे आ रहे हैं भाई. And they came out and they were building.
Hmm.
So that, and obviously concept is वो सब, but you're just looking at a super strong founder, super strong team, saying, okay, ये deck है, मैं बना सकता हूँ. And your confidence level is very high कि ये बना पाएगा.
सो ये तो हो गई एक एक्सपीरियंस्ड फाउंडर की बात. बट अगर हम एक बात करते हैं एक एक यंग फाउंडर की जो लेट्स से टीयर 2 टीयर 3 सिटीज है. He's built a great product, but he doesn't have any connections. So, what are the possibilities for him to reach out to potential investors to get an investment?
See, when it comes to great products, that's so. I'll give you an example. मेरा एक philosophy है, मैं कोई भी मुझे पहला मैसेज LinkedIn पे मैं रिप्लाई करता हूँ. I will always look, read, read the through the deck and respond.
Hmm.
So that's my only way I can do some amount of democracy to keep. I'm like आप चाहे lower income से हो, छोटे शहर से हो, I'm giving you one shot
Hmm.
to send me something and I will read it. अगर वो बकवास है, then sorry, that shot is gone.
Hmm.
अगर वो अच्छा है, I will either invest in it or I will showcase it to other friends of mine who it'll fit into their investment cycle. So I think
Right.
more and more people are opening up to kind of doing this kind of thing. Nikhil and Nitin Kamath have, I think, done one of the most amazing things ever. They've started what the WT Fund, what the fund,
Hmm.
and run by Harnid Kaur, amazing person and her team. So here they specifically, I think it's under 25 or under 26, and they're giving grants.
Hmm.
They're going around the country looking for the exactly what you mentioned. Chote shares, a great product, no access,
Hmm.
and they're not, and they're not even taking equity. They're like, ये grant hai. This is our way of giving
Okay.
back to uh, literally ये ecosystem है.
Look, that is really good that they're not like taking equity but giving grants. That is really good what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, उसके बाद उनके पास VC funds भी है, which after the grant, then if you're doing better and better, then they'll start
Hmm.
taking. But पहले तो एक chance तो दे रहे, थोड़ा
Hmm.
पैसा दे रहे to at least
Right.
start, build, try, वो
Right.
दे रहे. So there are programs like this across the country. Those are the shots. Now see, अगर आपके पास ना access है, ना इच्छा है for that, ना actual capability. Anytime someone comes to me and they've done no research,
Hmm.
they've not even read about me, my thought process, मुझे क्या investments करता हूँ, what am I looking at, and more often than not, they come with not understanding what is a venture scalable idea. I cannot tell you, yeah, if I had 1,000 rupees for every guy who's pitched me ये tier 3 का quick commerce, I would be very very rich today. मैं tier 3 का Zepto बन रहा हूँ, मैं tier 3 का Blinkit बन रहा हूँ, like भाई नहीं चाहिए.
वो गाइस ऑलरेडी इतने बड़े हैं कि वो आराम से एक मार्केट कैप्चर कर सकते हैं. Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So this is just one example of ये छोटे शहर से usually see oh that drive to build is there, understanding is not, and I think what a
Hmm.
lot of people are getting up to is कि सबको startups को देखते हैं as a lottery ticket कि ये मेरा startup चल चमका मेरा start चल गया मैं अमीर बन जाऊंगा. People have today my strong opinion is that a lot of nobody wants to put in the hard work, the effort, the
Hmm.
hours, the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, the years it takes to get to being able to build a good company. नहीं
Hmm.
करना है उनको. And then when I look at that 22-year-old who said मुझे tier 3 का blanket बनाना है, and I'm like भाई get out. Then they go on LinkedIn and they're like, no, startup VCs have no risk taking ability. I'm from small town. Nobody looks at me. Nobody cares about me. I'm like, bhai, build something worth building. If you're building something worth building, there are more than enough programs that will are there for you.
और जैसा अभी आपने मेंशन भी किया कि बहुत से लोग बिजनेस करते हैं कि मैं पैसा कमा लूँगा, अमीर बन जाऊँगा, बट जैसा मैंने भी इंटरव्यूज़ में सक्सेसफुल लोगों के सुना है कि पैसे के लिए जो बिजनेस करते हैं वो बिजनेस नहीं चलते. इज इट ट्रू? राइट.
See, I don't. I think that there are two ways to look at it. Yeah. Today, I know a lot of people both in jobs and in business who hate what they do, but
Hmm.
they make money. And when I say business, I'm saying forget startup, forget the word startup. Yeah, we are the country of small to medium
Hmm.
business people. I'm Gujju, Madu, Marwadis, Gujaratis. We've been running business for
Hmm.
hundreds of years. So I'm like, there are a lot
Hmm.
of programs that are out there to help
Hmm.
young founders who don't know. But my perspective is you also have to be willing to put in the work. A lot of times, and see, one of the biggest tricks in the world that no, a lot of people don't get is having a great product is not enough.
Hmm.
You have to have a great product. You have to understand how to finance that product, how to distribute that product, how to sell that product. That's though a lot of those pieces make a big difference. Actually, make the biggest difference. If you go and look at again, history teaches you a lot. If you look at Tesla, like Nikolai Tesla versus Edison,
Hmm.
Thomas Edison, both of them built different forms of electricity. I mean, not built, but invented and discovered,
Hmm.
and created different forms of using electricity, AC current versus DC current, and various other inventions. And they kept competing against each other. And in every instance, Tesla's product was superior.
Hmm.
In every instance, Edison's grip on sales and marketing was better.
Hmm.
Tesla died penniless. Edison died a
Yeah.
multimillionaire.
Yeah. He was a
So,
pure businessman. Hmm.
so it's very important to remember that there are a lot more also than just having the best product.
एक ऐसी स्किल, फाउंडर्स के लिए एक सेल्स ऑब्वियसली एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट स्किल है, नॉट जस्ट फॉर फाउंडर्स बट फॉर एवरी वन. सेल्स इज अ मस्ट हैव स्किल, राइट? बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम सेल्स स्किल्स, what is that one skill that is needed for every entrepreneur?
Good question, yeah. I I would call it grit. It's called grit, resilience, jid, the ability to just be like, jo ho hai, I'm going to put my head down and I will make this work somehow.
Hmm.
Somehow I will make it work.
Hmm.
Kuch bhi karke, I'm going to make this happen.
Hmm.
That is the single, in my opinion, biggest skill set.
Hmm. और जिनमें वो ग्रेट नहीं होता, वो जिद नहीं होती, वो फिर ज़्यादा नहीं चल पाते, क्योंकि अगर फेलियर वो फेस करेंगे तो फिर वो कंटिन्यू नहीं कर पाएंगे, राइट? वो क्विट कर देंगे.
नहीं कर पाएंगे. I
हम्म.
mean, while obviously they would, very few people talk about it, and I think more people should talk about the hard times that they've had.
हम्म.
But if you look, I mean, obviously I have private information, so itna nahi share kar sakta hu about a lot of the big companies today. There are times when they were there was no money in the bank. The
हम्म.
founders and the C levels wouldn't take salary, and they're not telling the team because
हम्म.
otherwise पूरा team week out हो जाएंगे. People start quitting, running away. They would not take their own salaries. They will not. They will in fact put some of their own money into the company just to
हम्म.
keep the lights on, just to keep things moving forward.
Have you
And they've
also
been,
faced?
yeah, I faced that both in Zilingo as well as in Jam. मैंने खुद का पैसा लगाया,
हम्म.
and in Jam I watched my own money burn because we lost money. in that
Hmm.
company, and I know what it feels like to have a pretty healthy bank account, looking very good, and then suddenly see that every month you're paying salaries. It
Hmm.
hurts.
So how did you get through that phase when you were facing financial crunches?
So you need to know. You also need to know when to. It's almost using that poker analogy. Yeah, you have to know when to hold. You have to know when to fold.
Hmm.
दोनों important है. So it's jid is good with logic. So in my particular case, we got a very small kind of acquisition exit kind of चीज मिल गया हमको, because when we were building our technology, we were importing parts from China. This is I was based out of Singapore. We were importing parts from China. This is in 2021. The parts my total unit cost came up to about 60 US dollars. Um, I had budgeted, you know, electronics manufacturing में मैंने बहुत लोगों के साथ बात किया. I spoke to small, big, medium, big people from personal business all the way up to like people who manage Google का supply chain. तो मैंने 20% का margin buffer रखा उसमें. And
Hmm.
6 months in, the price had already gone up to 90 US dollars because COVID में chipset crisis आ गया.
Hmm.
Now थोड़ा सा ब्लैक स्वान इवेंट है. किसी को नहीं पता चला कि chips are going to now become ridiculously rare and expensive. And
Hmm.
at its peak, when I had to take this very hard decision, and the decision was harder because I mean, all three of us founders had a lot of goodwill in the market. Log, we were raising a little over $1 million for our next round. In fact, people had already started wiring the money to our account. And we and the other two founders just sat down and we were like, yeah, the 120 प्राइस पॉइंट पे हमारा प्रोडक्ट पूरा बिजनेस नहीं चलेगा. We can't run it, and I don't know, nobody knows who can predict when the chipset crisis is going to get over. And this is not something I can solve. यार मैं कल सेमीकंडक्टर का फैक्ट्री पे जाके प्रार्थना नहीं कर सकता हूँ कि भाई मुझे दे दो. नहीं होगा. I
Hmm.
can't change the. Again, see, these are the perils of running a deep tech. मैं कुछ और
Right.
कर रहा था. I could have easily pivoted, done something. यार
Hmm.
ये चिप मेरा इनपुट है. मेरा इनपुट इसको चेंज ही नहीं कर सकता हूँ. आई कांट. एंड दैट कॉस्ट हैज पुश माय प्रोडक्ट फ्रॉम $60 to 120. वो प्राइस पॉइंट पे बिजनेस वायबल ही नहीं है. So we
Hmm.
took the hard call, returned the capital to our investors, gave it back, said ये नहीं चल पाएगा. Not with the current way the market scenario is.
Hmm.
And then luckily our technology was valuable, so we spoke to a company out of the UK. We were able to crack a deal so that we were able to make our people at least give back some stuff, give back some salary, capital
Hmm.
to people.
Right.
But it was a hard decision to take.
आपने बताया जैसे every founder should know when to hold and when to fold, right? बट इसी से रिलेटेड एक क्वेश्चन दिमाग में आ रहा है कि when can a founder know when to fold? Because founders जिद्दी होते हैं and they just keep going and keep going. उन्हें बाद में रियलाइज होता है कि हाँ ये सही नहीं था. When can they know when to fold?
Yeah, this is an answer that I wish I had. I wish I had an answer.
Hmm.
I don't have a. You have to look at your own risk appetite. Number one, you need to see कि
Hmm.
मैं कितना risk ले सकता हूँ.
Right.
Can you hear me, Akshat?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
So the first thing is you need to basically be comfortable with what is my risk taking capability. Can I live work on this for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year without any salary?
Hmm.
The next is, and this is an important one, can I not draw salary and can I pay salaries?
Hmm.
Let's say funding nahi aayegi, aayegi nahi.
Right.
Keep building, keep building, keep building. how long can I do this without money? And
Hmm.
अगर आप I would always recommend this because I usually now enforce it at my portfolio companies is keep at least a 2 month buffer for your salary payments for your employees. Because I think like in situations like when you can see with Byju's today and so
Hmm.
many of these other startups that have crashed and left people's salaries unpaid, left people broken. I'm like, you you can gamble with your own future, you can gamble with your own life, you can gamble with your own stock as a founder. But if you're gambling with your company's, your team's future like that, without telling them,
Hmm.
see if you speak to your entire team and say, okay, we have no more money in the bank, we have 3 months of money in the bank, we can do one of three things. We can shut down today and give you 3 months worth of salary. We can give everybody 50% pay, which gives us an extra 3 months.
Yeah.
We can run for 3 months at least.
Hmm.
Like those are the kind of creative solutions that people have come up with when they are in these absolutely desperate
Hmm.
positions. But if you don't tell them and you run and you use that 3 months of money up, and then you tell them, okay, sorry sirs, goodbye, go home today, no more money left, you're out of a job and you're no more paycheck. I think that is just a really, really unethical. So those are kind of where those are some of the guidelines that I would use to say no when to fold.
Hmm. So, I think I'm out of questions, right? But it was great talking to you, I think, and I hope कि हमारे व्यूअर्स को बहुत नॉलेज सीखने को मिलेगी इस पॉडकास्ट से. बट जाते जाते मैं एक ऐसा क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहूँगा जो आप फाउंडर्स को बोलना चाहते हो, कुछ ऐसा चीज़ बताना चाहते हो जो वो यूजुअली नहीं सुनते, बट दे रियली नीड टू हियर दैट. एनी वन थिंग दैट दे शुड नो. आप क्या कहना चाहोगे हमारे अगर फाउंडर्स इस पॉडकास्ट को देख रहे हैं?
धंधा बनाओ, पैसा भागेगा आपके पीछे. पैसे के पास भाग जाओ,
Hmm.
भागते रहो, धंधा नहीं बनेगा.
Hmm. And what's your personal, definition of success? Is it financial?
My personal thoughts on success are, yeah, I think it's one of the first ones comes to social and familial. Can
Hmm.
you take care with respect, with time, with love, with money also? Can you take care of the people around you?
Hmm.
Can you take care of your parents? Can you take care of your grandparents? अगर आप married हो तो can you obviously take care of your, not necessarily that you have to take care of them. आज का ज़माने में obviously people should be able to be an equal partnership, but can you in times of need take care of the ones that are dependent upon
Hmm.
वो पहले अगर वो ठीक हो जाता है, that's number one. And दूसरा is यार मे बी थोड़ा simplistic है, but are you happy?
Hmm.
Are you happy in life? Are you happy with what you're doing? Are you fit? And to be happy, you have to be mentally comfortable. You need to ideally be थोड़ा physically. I'm not saying you have to be ripped, yeah, like six pack to nahi chahiye, but
Hmm.
are you physically comfortable? Are you going to be continuing to be happy with good health? So my personal definition is about taking care of folks around and just being happy.
Hmm. That's great. So, thank you so much, Avikji. It was really nice talking to you.